So tonight in the healing room, the topic of discussion is the disease is the cure. The disease is the cure. Now, this is a very curious statement, and I have pondered this for quite some time. And, in our Western culture, we are conditioned to believe that we have to stop diseases and stop symptoms and stop our pain and suffering at all costs, because on some level it means we failed. Like there's something wrong if we have to go into sickness. But in reality, from what I have learned from my many years of experience, is that the disease is actually supporting us in the healing process, that we're not here to stop the disease, we're here to express it. So if something shows up in our life, it's showing up for a reason. And it's not to be pushed away, pushed aside, avoided, stopped. It's to be embraced. Because there's some information in that disease. There's information there. And in that disease is the cure. But in order to access the cure, and what is cure? Cure is healing, cure is wholeness. It's a return to a natural state. Because before the disease, something was going on that wasn't natural. We may be off center. So the disease is actually information to bring us back on track. You're working too hard, you're eating the wrong foods, you're not sleeping well, you're staying up too late, whatever it may be. There's information in the disease, and our goal is to learn what that is, what the symptoms are trying to tell us. And so Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So the disease isn't to thwart us, it's to support us and to strengthen us. Because I consider diseases an upgrading process, upgrading our system, our physiology. Right? In the 60s and 70s, some of you may remember, there used to be these things called measles parties and chickenpox parties, where one kid would get sick and all the mothers would send their children, to the house of who was sick. Why? So they could hopefully catch the disease. Why would they want their children to catch the disease? Because then they get the natural antibodies from that disease. Yes, it's uncomfortable for a little bit, but then your immune system gets stronger, your being gets stronger. And the other part, which has been kind of wiped away from our intelligence, is that when you go through a disease like that, it staves off future diseases like cancer. So we actually want to go through the physical disease process and not stop it from unfolding. Because that suppression, that continual suppression of symptoms, leads to chronic disease. And that's what we're experiencing in spades in this country now. So many people, so many children with so many chronic illnesses that we've never experienced before. Why? Because we've strayed from the truth that the disease process is beneficial to our overall health and well-being. So it behooves us to surrender whenever we get sick, to drop into the process of dis-ease so that we may flourish, we may flower out of that dis-ease, and we may learn something from that experience. Many times I went through many diseases over the past, 35 years, and every time I came out of it, I could feel my energetic system on another level. All of my spiritual abilities got stronger. My clairvoyance, my clairaudience, along with my physiology. So toxins were leaving the body through the mucus, right? Through the urine, through the bowels. And in its place, we are filled with light. We are filled with consciousness. So the detoxing that we go through when we allow ourselves to go through the disease process is very significant. It's an upgrading to our cellular structure because we are here to enlighten our beings, which means to face the darkness and bring it into light. So the disease process is the shadow. We drop into the shadow, we embrace the shadow, and we enlighten the shadow. And then we are that much more integrated in unity consciousness. Each time we do the inner work and we absorb more of our dis-ease, more of our split in consciousness, because that's also what the dis-ease is doing. Dis-ease, disease, discomfort, all those experiences is informing us of our contribution to the split in consciousness we're experiencing on the planet. Because it's a world of duality, right? It's a world of polarity, good, bad, right, wrong, you versus me. The goal, from my perspective, is to unify that split in consciousness, to integrate it. And so each time we are faced with a challenge, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is, we are being offered the opportunity to rectify the split in consciousness, to take the duality, right? Good, bad, right, wrong, and to bring it together, to come back to oneness within the body, to be in the world, but not of the world, to be in the illusion, but not controlled by the illusion. Why? Because I'm in my central channel. I'm not in the split in consciousness. This is the rectification. That's why we hold our hands in prayer pose or namaste to say, I honor the divinity within each and every one of you, within this world. I honor everything as part of the divine. I no longer choose to split my consciousness off, to blame, to project. I take it all back, I take it all in, and I transform it. That's what it means to be uncomfortable, to be in dis-ease, is I'm face to face with an aspect of myself that is split off, that is fractured. And my goal is, how do I rectify this split within myself? How do I sit and be with all of this discomfort rather than distract myself, rather than suppress symptoms, rather than do things that don't allow me to be with myself? Right? It's a whole culture of distraction and avoidance. It takes a really strong, focused soul to be able to sit still and maintain the observer. It's a practice. It's a practice to stay in the central channel, in unity consciousness, and to not be pulled hither and thither, here and there, by what's happening in the world. There's always going to be things happening in the world, right? That's the storm. And our goal is to be the calm in the eye of the storm. Let all that stuff happen. Let everybody have opinions, good, bad, right, wrong. I get to stay in my center and observe everything and everyone. I don't have to participate in that. And the observer, the one who sits in the witness mode, actually is healing the split in consciousness for everyone else because they're not perpetuating it by injecting and projecting that energy into the field of consciousness. So imagine what the world would be like if more and more of us was able to stay in witness mode and just radiating that level of presence. The witness maintains presence, which to me is the healer. So here we are in this world, in this Maya, this world of illusion, doing our best to be with all of our experiences. And these experiences can be called pain and suffering, right? Some of them, the negative experiences, pain and suffering. But the pain is really the doorway to healing. The suffering is the doorway back to unity consciousness. So it's not like something I look forward to, let's say. But when it arises, I've learned at this point in time that I need to surrender into these moments of suffering, to bring my awareness to what is the suffering, that I may transmute it. Because if I don't, it keeps returning. That's what patterns are. These patterns of the same thing happening over and over again is because I haven't received the gift from the lesson from that pattern, from that negativity, from that disease, from that problem. So the more I surrender into the suffering, the more I die to my former iteration to myself, and I am reborn as a new being in the world. And this is it, death and rebirth, over and over again. But while we're in the body, this is the key, because it's not efficient to die to the body and have to come back and do this again. How many times we've all been trying over and over again to rectify the splits in consciousness. So the goal then is to do it while we're in the body, to die and be reborn over and over and over again, so that we can realize our greatness. That's the goal. So just like the caterpillar, like at a certain point in time, it has this awareness that I need to die to my former self. And it goes into this stage, right? The chrysalis stage, the Christed stage, to dissolve its limited former self and become something much greater than it was before. But while it's in that stage, it's not the past and it's not the future. It's nothing. It's just goo. No identity, no form. And it's one of the most frightening places to be. Who am I if I'm not this person I was? Who am I? And that's part of the issue, is the fear of going into that question. Because once you ask that question, that's it. The game is over. Because you're nothing that you can describe. You're beyond all of it. So that stage of the chrysalis, the in-between stages of not the past and not the future, is the one we really need to embrace. The not knowing, the unaware, the just floating and trusting that what I'm going through is going to lead me somewhere that's much more, what's the word? That's much more intelligent, much more enlightened, much more awake and aware, much stronger physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Each time we die, because we need to do it more than once. Because if we went through this process all at once, we wouldn't survive the process. The electrical currents that can come through us are so powerful, they could burn our circuits. So we have to go through it in stages. But I thought I already healed this aspect of myself. Why am I back in this place again? Yeah, it's a deeper level of healing. And the more we drop into this process, the more we enlighten the shadows within us. Right? Die before we die. Over and over and over again. That is one of my main mantras, to die before I die. I'm here to become something much greater than who I thought I ever could possibly be. And so, what happens after the chrysalis stage? Then there's some stirrings, there's some movements, and then these wings begin to sprout step by step. And we cannot speed up that process. It takes as long as it takes for a caterpillar to become a butterfly. It takes as long as it takes for us to integrate our shadow aspects, our fears, our wounds, our past. It takes as long as it takes, and it will take as many disease processes and healing crises in order for us to sprout those wings. And we do get somewhere, if you can trust me, because I've been through it so many times with so many illnesses. And I am in so much better shape now than I was 30 years ago. That's how profound this healing process is. And, when we go through these diseases, it doesn't mean we have to just sit there and suffer. There are ways we can hasten, speed up, support the body, support the mind in healing. There's various ways you can do that. And that's why holistic medicine is so significant, because holistic medicine is aligned with nature. And we are nature embodied. We're all the elements, we're all things that exist outside in this body. So when we're going through some process, we can support it through herbs, through energy medicine, homeopathy, flower essences, through minerals, through detoxes, many different forms of healing, natural healing that's out there to support the process of us moving from dis-ease to ease, from ill health to greater health. Many things that can be utilized. Very different than Western medicine that uses chemicals to repress and suppress, which will move the energy that wants to go somewhere deeper into the system, creating chronic disease. So we don't have to just lay there and suffer and do nothing to contribute while we're in our disease process. We simply need to drop into the experience and then attune to, what does this body need? What support does it need? And yes, there are various healers out there, physicians out there, metaphysicians, shamans, whatever it is, acupuncturists, that can support us in moving through the process, in dying to the old self and being reborn to the new self. So we're not alone on this path. I could not be here if it wasn't for support from many healers and many teachers and many physicians. I learned from each one of them so that I could become my own physician, so that I can attune to what is needed in each moment, so I could stay in integrity with my diet and nutrition, with my lifestyle, with my exercise, with my meditation. All of that is contributing to perfect health, perfect presence. So once again, the goal is not to resist the healing and transformation, but to surrender into it, to feel the pain, to feel the suffering, rather than trying to avoid or cover it up. Years ago, in my 20s, I had to have some dental work done. And at one point, I had to have a root canal. And the dentist came close to me to give me Novocaine with his needle. And I said, "Oh no, I don't need any Novocaine." And he looked at me like, "What? What do you mean you don't want Novocaine? Do you know what a root canal is?" I said, "Yeah, I know very well what it is." He's like, "It's pretty sensitive." And I said, "Yeah, I'll be okay." So he starts the whole procedure. It takes about half an hour. And he's doing what he's doing, cleaning out the roots. And it wasn't that I didn't feel anything. I definitely felt sensations. I just didn't give it a value, good, bad, right, wrong. I simply relaxed into the sensation I didn't resist it. I didn't fight it. I didn't make up a story like this is painful. I simply surrendered to this man and I allowed him to do his work. Now, the Novocaine is an illusion because it's just temporarily helping me not to feel pain, but then I'm going to feel the pain later. So why not just feel the pain in the moment and go through it and integrate it in the moment? Why fight it? Why resist it when I'm going to have to feel it later on? So afterwards, he was done and he's like, I've never had that experience with anyone. He goes, not only did you not flinch, it was like you were on a beach meditating somewhere. He said that was extraordinary. I don't think it's extraordinary. I think it's ordinary. I think we've been told to fear pain. We've been conditioned to believe that at all costs I have to avoid pain and suffering. Take an aspirin for a headache. Take a Tums for a stomach ache. Take a swig of alcohol after a day of work. I'm so tired of this job. Right? Do something to numb the pain. Do something to get to a place of, quote, feeling good, even if it's a fake feeling good. Do something. That's the goal in the Western culture. Feel as good as possible. Don't focus on the bad, focus on the good. But the reality is, it's there. The experience is there. The pain is there. The suffering is there. It's present. But if we're not present, we just dance around it. But at some point, we're going to have to face it. We're going to have to face it head on. And the universe gives us a lot of love taps. Hey, pay attention to this. Hey, pay attention to that. And if we don't, then it's like, hey, pay attention because the love taps are going to get harder. And then we have a quote accident. Because the more off center we get, the stronger the vector of energy has to be to match how off we are. So it behooves us to truly surrender into the disease process, the discomfort of life, and really be with ourselves so that we can learn about ourselves, so we can learn to love ourselves wholly and completely, so that we can return to this place of unity consciousness, of oneness, so we can rectify the split in consciousness. It really is the best work to do in this world because what else is there to do? How much money can you make? How much things can you have? How much? How much? Before the illusion, it's like, okay, so what? Now that I have all these things, now what? Do I have my health? Do I have peace of mind? Do I have an open heart? Can I be unconditionally loving? Like these are the questions to really ask oneself to see if life is really working. Is life working out for me? And then you do an assessment. But there will always be times where we are confronted with our shadow, with our greatest fears. And it's those moments in time you want to sit down and do the deep work. Because on the other side of those fears and shadows is something extraordinary. Something so beyond our mind's capacity to understand. So it's well worth it to drop into dis-ease and discomfort and allow the healing to unfold.